Welcome to the Cal Park Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is my host, Jason, calling in from the Batcave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
Bro, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty fired up about this show. Got some really good topics to talk about. We're moving on, making things good. But the week's been good so far. Of course, it's Tuesday, so it's early. But I'm ready to get this started, bro. I'm ready. This might be epic. This might be an epic episode in the legendary path that is the Cal Park Bros. So I'm ready to get it going.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way. For the uninitiated, the Cal Park Bros podcast is a weekly podcast for fans of culture, current events, sports, and entertainment.
And as always, we're your hosts, Terrence and Jason. And every single Thursday, we release a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. No matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
All right, folks, here's that important part we love so much. For more Cal Park Bros content, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube under the handle Cal Park Bros or Cal Park Bros Podcast for more behind the scenes of the Cal Park Bros show and to engage with us every single day. But also, the Cal Park Bros Podcast is available to listen and subscribe for free wherever you listen to podcasts.
Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And if you like us, folks, why wouldn't you?
Hey, you guys know what it is. Keep doing it. We love it. We see it happening. So keep it up and we thank you.
Now, Jason, you seem to want to kick the show off with the news that the president apparently has updated the vaccine mandate for about 100 million Americans. I am quoting the CBSNews.com article. Basically, it's a new vaccine mandate for all federal workers and contractors, and a requirement that large companies must mandate vaccines or regular testing for employees. The president is quoted as saying, "My job as president is to protect all Americans," Mr. Biden said Thursday. So tonight, I'm announcing the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. Mr. Biden noted that many large companies already require vaccinations. Bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated workers, he said. Jason, you were awfully heated about this particular update. Why, I dare to even call you the mad rapper at this point. Why are you so hot under the collar about this particular mandate right now?
So I'm going to pull an audible, as I've done once before in the show. Before I go into my diatribe, as some people might call it, I want to hear your opinion on this before I go into mine.
I mean, my opinion on it, your boy Terrence got vaccinated in January and February.
That didn't answer my question.
That's my answer. I mean, this doesn't
mean anything.
Like me, dog. Like,
it doesn't mean anything.
This is more for folks who. This end game has been about folks like you who have opted not to get the jab yet. And it's not really about me because I've already opted to get vaccinated. So your boy, your co-hostess with the mo-hostess is mildly indifferent. Like the president already said, a lot of companies are already doing this. I tried to tell you a couple episodes earlier. As soon as Mickey D's made that shit required, I was like, watch. There are more coming. And here we are. So I'm not I feel like there's already a majority of your bigger companies. McDonald's is, a Fortune 50, wonder kind. There are a lot of companies like your middle-sized companies, that might have 50 to 100 employees. And while they may not be as big as, let's say, McDowell's or Whack Arnold's, they still are around commerce. They still are potential pockets of infection down the road. And if we really want to go full bore with this whole return to normalcy deal, we're kind of running out of people to vaccinate. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think you have a lot more. We're going to get into that. But first of all, yeah, we have a lot more people to vaccinate, according to Biden, 100 million people. So, um, and you mentioned McDonald's bringing it up. And as I mentioned to you yesterday, technically most McDonald's wouldn't actually fall under Biden's requirements because individual McDonald's don't have 100 employees. You mentioned someone we know and love about got a job at McDonald's. Guess what? They're not required to do so. At least not under Biden's rules. The company did it on their own. Great. Good for them. Congratulations. Thumbs up to you. Whoop-de-doo. Congratulations. Hoo-ha, whatever. So, and you mentioned in your open...
Corporate entity that is McDonald's, by the way.
What did you just say?
Has over 100 employees.
No, they don't. Each individual McDonald's does not house 100 employees.
I said the corporate entity, not an individual franchisee.
Okay, well, nobody cares about that. So,
well, you should.
Well, I don't.
There's a difference, and I'm happy to explain it to you one day.
I'm aware of the difference. What I'm saying is no one cares about corporate McDonald's. No offense to anybody who works there, but take offense if you want. Don't care. So, yeah, definitely we have plenty of people that still can get vaccinated because Biden made that pretty clear in his speech that you just sort of referenced. 100 million people are going to be affected by his requirements. 80 million unvaxxed or whatever he wanted to say in the speech. Part of the problem that I also mentioned yesterday with his speech was he pretty much just fanned the flames that we have of this battle. I won't call it war, but this battle or conflict even.
Oh, geez.
You can't argue that last one, conflict, because it's true. He fanned the flames of it. There are several things he said in that speech that made it clear that this is, in his opinion at least, it's the fault of the unvaccinated as to why we're in this situation. And specifically, he said, this is quotes, "This is the pandemic of the unvaxxed." So apparently no one else that's vaccinated, you're not in the pandemic, just if you're unvaxxed. So news to the world, if you're vaxxed, there's no pandemic for you, just for the unvaxxed, according to Joe Biden. Also said many of us are frustrated with the 80 million Americans who are unvaxxed. So again, apparently this is our fault. Everybody's unvaxxed. It's your fault this is happening. So, and yeah, he made several comments like that pretty much put the blame on the unvaxxed. So again, fanning the flames, they're already out there as it is. And as we've seen the last 4 years previous to this, people love getting behind whatever a president says or does. We've seen that with a different guy. So Biden in his speech definitely
I mean, say what you mean, fam. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to mince words here.
I didn't respect him anyway before, so now I have further reason not to. I didn't vote for him or Trump for that matter, so whatever. But yeah, so he already lost me with his speech, number one. Don't really care about that. Now, as you mentioned, or as we mentioned several times, yes, I'm unvaxxed for a reason. I have my reasons and concerns. Just like I've said before, anybody who hasn't got vaccinated at this point probably has a reason why they don't and haven't gotten it and don't want to get it. Okay?
Well, motherfuckers don't want to wear seatbelts. That don't mean...
That is not an equivalent comparison, and I hate when people bring it up because it's not an equal comparison.
I mean, I could bring a ton of shit to be like,
Go ahead.
I want to do that. I'm like, well, who cares if you don't want to do it? Right now, Mr., it's not about you over here, says that it is about you right now.
No, okay, so that's okay. That's another thing he said. He made some reference to it's not about freedom or personal choice.
I fucking hate when people say it's not about that. When they try and hit you with the personal choice argument, I'm like, personal choice is how we ended up in this fucking ordeal in the first place. People think they could just do whatever they want. Quote my guy, willy nilly.
Keep going, because you're gonna make my next point for me. Keep going, please.
No, Jason, I'm not even fucking arguing with you. What I'm saying though is, there's no reason. I was on your ass because you was talking about this is basically a war on the unvaxxed. I'm like, you got to be careful because you're basically trying to Fox News your own vibe by saying war on Christmas, war on the unvaxxed. I mean, realistically, I often said the best bet was for people was for us as a nation to encourage it, but apparently that wasn't enough for some of you. And when I say some of you, I do mean you, and others. That being said, that's a lot of people potentially that might be affected, could be potentially saved from death. And it sounds like basically they're leaving it up to those businesses to figure out how the hell they're going to either do the vaccination deal or do the testing deal. So unless Big Brother's literally saying no, they got to be tested like this, telling you to bend over, that I feel like a lot of your anger is reflexive and not actually based in reality.
Oh, so now I'm in fantasy land. Is that right?
I mean, if I wanted to say Fantasyland
Then
or
say it.
fairy tale, I would.
Then, like you said, don't mince words here. We don't need to do that. People
No,
didn't come.
we do that here on Cal Park Bros.
Exactly. We don't do that here on Cal Park Bros. You want to say something, say it. I think
No, I don't think that you are making it up. I don't think that you are living a fairy tale. I don't want to insult you.
you can't. So go
the,
for it. Say what you got to say.
the uninsultable.
That's facts.
Right.
So say what you got to say.
No, I don't have anything to say. I'm just telling you. I think a lot of your frustration, I mean, it's no different than people finding it's no different than the vaccinated finding all sorts of different articles about what the next variant might do. One, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Two, you've already made the decision to get vaccinated. You've already protected yourself as best you can. There's no point in fixating on what you can't control. And in the same vein, this sounds like something that you're trying to fixate on something that you can't control. You know?
Well, it's not about me trying to control it. Like I said, we've gone a couple episodes before this one before even talking about anything COVID related, but we landed on this because, like you mentioned before, it affects so many people, me included. So I feel like we had to talk about this. Number one, so not me trying to control it. It's us talking about a big topic that affects a lot of people, again, including me, and technically you. Yes, we know that you got vaxxed when you back in January. So thank you for dying for our sins. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kanye. Woo!
Folks, hopefully that's the last mention of that guy on our show on this episode. Terrence Love, I'm sure we'll bring it up again. But
yep.
yeah,
We talked about the last album, so it's all good.
No need. So, but that goes into also what I was saying before about this whole conflict between people who are vaxxed or not. So it's our fault, number one. But I say to you, as I said yesterday, it's not just about people who are vaxxed or unvaxxed. It's people, like you said before, who are out doing willy-nilly, doing what they want to do normally, and not protecting themselves. You know what I mean? Because again, because you, like, as we know, if you're vaxxed or unvaxxed, you can get COVID. You can't. If you're vaxxed or unvaxxed, you can spread COVID. You can. You can even get in the hospital potentially with COVID and die from COVID even if you're vaxxed, right? So it's not about vaxxed or unvaxxed. It's about doing silly stuff.
How do you even define silly stuff? That's
Okay.
my favorite thing.
No masking, no distancing, doing also stuff indoors as opposed to out. That's what I'm saying. So, because again, I agree with you. I agree with all the numbers, whatnot. If you're unvaxxed and you get it, you can have a bigger chance of dying or going to the hospital. Great, I get it. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just people who are unvaxxed that can get this or die from it. That's a misconception. Well, yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is that part gets forgotten and left out, which is where this came from when it comes to this is the pandemic of the unvaxxed. Okay. So, and the fact of the matter is, now that he's made this requirement, which there hasn't been a date release or deadline release when it comes to when these employers of 100 plus employees have to have this stuff in place. I saw he released something about the federal employees part where they had to get it done by the 22nd of November. So I would presume somewhere probably after that is when these employers have to get this all done. Okay. And that's when people are going to start making the decision, including me, is keeping my job with my employer worth me compromising my concerns or issues with taking the vax? That's a fact. People are going to have to make that choice. That's really what it boils down to. That can't be argued. That is what it is. And that's unfortunate that people have to be put in that position to do something to themselves that they normally, in any other situation up until last Thursday, they'll be able to make that decision on their own. And that's the unfortunate part, in my opinion, of this. Because there are going to be people who decide the answer to that question is no, which is up to them. But hey, but again, this is all our fault, right? So,
I mean, it seems like you're taking it personally.
well, well, I know I'm not alone in that as well for anybody that's unvaxxed, and why shouldn't I or anybody else?
I mean, basically, Jason, you're gonna do what the fuck you want to do anyway. Now, I've already given you my personal advice. It's a good thing you don't work for the Fed, because that would be fucked up if you you fucked up your Christmas on some principle stance about what might happen versus what you already know what will happen.
Well, you say what might happen. What do you mean?
You're talking about potential side effects to getting the jab versus the known side effect of not getting the jab if they say you want to work there, which is getting your ass fired.
Well,
That's
well,
the
first
known
of all,
side effect versus the unknown side effect. I'm not even judging, and that's not even about you. I'm simply saying we talked about, well, all these unknown side effects to um, the various three options for the vaccine. And what I'm saying is, okay, most of us who opted to get vaccinated also knew that there were risks, whether you feel that way or not. I don't think that we did any less research than you did. And I don't think that, I think people just saw enough death and despair. Um, and they said, okay, what will make it more likely for me to be able to, I don't know, return to normalcy? I mean, for some people, I mean, the fact that you can't even get through this combo without rolling your eyes tells me a lot, my guy, because I don't think I've done it to you once today. So my point is that you're talking about a conflict, and for many people, whatever potential side effects that you've brought up, whatever potential risks you've brought up, those are risks people are willing to live with.
what people?
People that already made a decision to get vaccinated, Jason.
But that's
Um,
you. But look, hang on. But that's your
no, no,
decision.
no,
Everybody else's.
interrupt
Yours.
me. Please don't interrupt me.
Oh,
What I'm
really?
saying
Really?
is, what I'm saying
Like you
is
do all the time?
what I'm saying is that it's almost like reflexively trying to infer that somehow you are more alive and woke to what potential risk factors there were about this vaccine than the rest of us were. That's the obnoxious part of the unvaccinated. These conspiracy theory motherfuckers, and you're not there yet, but it's only a hop, skip, and a jump for you to get there. I hope you don't get there.
What conspiracy theory am I even close to? Have I mentioned anything about a microchip or changing my DNA or tracking us? No.
No,
No.
but I'm sure that a lot of individuals that are there now probably didn't sound like that at first. And that's why I'm saying That's the obnoxious part.
Well, see, that's an assumption on your end, as you just admitted.
I'm not assuming that that's where you're going to go. I'm saying it's very easy to transition from one to the other. I have no idea what the hell you're going to be talking about 6 months from now.
Oh, are we done?
So much for 40 minutes.
Oh, no, no, oh, no, 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 no.
I mean, I feel like I've kind of set my piece on this. I mean, there's nothing, unless you just want to be mad at everybody, because I don't see the conflict. The only conflict I see is a crucial conflict. I'm about to play
Well,
the final tick as soon as we get done with this fucking podcast.
so that's exactly the point, because you don't see the conflict because it doesn't affect you, because you're not the one being blamed for this. And then second, you mentioned the concerns I mentioned to you about the possible side effects, and I'm not talking about the whole cough, sore arm stuff. That is typical. I'm not talking about that, people. Just to be clear. But so you mentioned that, but just so you know, and I've told you this already, I actually have 3 other conflicts besides that as well. So it's not just that one. And that's the thing. You mentioned that you and your household might have gotten the vaccine early. Again, to you, congratulations. Thanks for dying on the cross for us. We appreciate that.
I
Second,
mean, you just sound insufferable now before
okay,
you
once
on down
again,
this
okay,
path.
so you see how you just yelled the other day by interrupting me? Not the other day, but 2 seconds ago by me interrupting you. But you couldn't jump in right when I'm in the middle of making a point. So thank you.
Just
Hypocrisy at its finest.
hopefully it
Thank you.
doesn't take 40 minutes for you to get there. Come
Well, I
on.
don't. Well, I can do what I want. Guess what? It's my show. So as it is yours. There we go. But my point is, you and your household decided to get it early based off your situation and your household and what was important for you. Me and same thing with everybody else who got the vaccine, no matter when they got it. Me and everyone else who chose not to get it did the same thing for our households and our concerns. You had none, or your household had none. Again, great. It's up to
Based
you.
off you, did I ever say that I never had any concerns?
Okay, fair enough. But your
That
concern, but your
that is a super Metroid leap you just made, because I
fair,
never said I didn't have any concerns.
but those concerns weren't enough for you to choose not to get it, and that's your decision again for you and your household. For everyone that chose not to get it, their concerns were heavy enough to where they chose not to get it. And now, pretty much because of one individual who unfortunately is the head of this country, unfortunately.
Why is it one individual? Are we literally going to act like 70 plus million people didn't vote for fucking Joe Biden? Don't put it on one guy. This guy
Well,
said what he was going to do.
we're not going in the whole politics side of that, so we're not going there
We're
today.
literally talking about the president of the United States. We can't talk about this without talking about the politics.
I'm not. What I meant was him going into him getting elected. I'm not going into that part because that's a whole nother situation.
They are related, my guy. When you vote for the president, that election has consequences.
Well, when you come back at me,
Different.
well, I tell you what, if a guy was voted into office for reasons because of his own merits, as opposed to people voting against the other guy, then holler at me. So,
I mean, that in of itself, that he wasn't Donald Trump, was merit enough for some folks.
which again, that's why I didn't want to go down this road because it's a whole different path. Okay, we
I
glad to
mean,
talk about this next week. But
who did you want to lead the free nation? That's what I want to know.
again, as I said before, I didn't vote for either one of them because again, my choice was if I don't like the person, 2 options, vote for somebody else because of stuff like this. Because I could say nothing about this Joe Biden thing if I voted for him because it's my fault he's there in the first place. So that's why I chose not to vote for either one of them because I didn't like either one of them.
Basically, if I vote for someone, then that means that somehow insulates them for critique for the next 4 years.
You can critique all you want, but it's still your fault because you voted for him. You can't, simple enough. That's the truth. That's the truth.
That is a very unique way of looking at the way the world works.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, again, we'll cut this off, talk about it later because this is totally against the point. But the fact of the matter is, again, I think this is completely ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. And people are going to be out of a job for no reason whatsoever just because somebody wanted to make a ruling because 80 million people were unvaxxed.
I mean, if
or is it more of the stupid people?
it happens to say, okay, well, if you won't get vaccinated, then you'll have to be a part of the whatever cadence of testing. Then effectively, you have an out. You
That's
have an
it.
out.
That's if your employer chooses to allow that option. They don't have to.
Well, it sounds like you need to be hollering at your employer's HR team and trying to convince them why that is good for business.
Well, that might have been the case before for anybody else's employer when it comes to the same situation, but now that they're backed up by what Biden did, it's not going to matter. So, so
I
yeah.
mean, it seems like because he put this under OSHA and the
Well,
Department of Labor, he's literally saying, "Man, I'm not telling y'all how to do it. I'm telling y'all better figure it out."
and theirs is out. Theirs is out as a president. I'll give him that. That was a smart move. He put it on the labor unions or labor employers, whatever you want to call it.
We already talked about unions. That was last week.
Biden, I'll give you credit for that. That was very smart of you. Very smart. You can blame your employer as opposed to and he actually said something about that in the speech too. That kind of like, okay, that was real slick. Um, so yeah, you can put the blame on the employers all you want, but clearly it's because of him and his, determination that it's, the fault of the unvaxxed. When again, I've said before, it's the fault of these stupid idiots out there that go to certain events, without protecting themselves. So
I
it's
mean,
not just
you
now
know,
that's including the vax and unvaxxed. So
Jason, I still maintain that COVID can tell the difference between the okay events and the not so okay events. I didn't know that COVID was so picky about where it would decide to infect you.
exactly, that's exactly the point. A good point, actually. It doesn't matter because, but again, if you're not protecting yourself and being smart, I'm not talking about just going to the events, but going to the events not masked, not distancing, stuff like that. That's where the risk comes from, and that's where this is all happening from, and that is what it is. Because again, as someone who hasn't been vaxxed for this last 2 years, guess what? I've never had COVID because I mask, I distance, I don't go do stupid things. But if I did, I'll still mask and distance.
How would you know you've
So
never had COVID? Like, are you testing yourself on a daily basis?
I test my well for one, I test myself when I need to. Like for example, when I traveled out of town not long ago, test when I came back negative. Still, but I was masking, of course, while I was when appropriate. Same thing. Never had any symptoms. I don't carry anything around, and I don't give myself a chance to get COVID.
What do you mean you don't give yourself a chance to get COVID? You exist. The only people that didn't give themselves a chance to get COVID are fucking dead. I'm not
Well,
trying to tell you to put your life on hold.
and
Hell,
I haven't.
why did you over? I'm not talking like a crazy person. I'm saying, think about what you're saying. You are acting as though you have like the magic fucking cheat code to not get COVID.
Okay. So according to the same institution that is backing up this whole vaccine mandate, they're the ones that also said masking is supposed to help prevent the COVID spread or reception. Correct. So, and that's what I've done when I go to the gym, grocery store, indoors, anywhere else, whether it be a mall, restaurant, wherever it is, I still do that stuff. And I will have to subscribe to say that it works because I've never had COVID.
That
So
you know of.
I've never had COVID. Because
That
trust me,
you,
because if I had COVID, I would have given it to someone else who's been close to me and they've never had it either. So, I'm very confident that I've never had COVID
but you are not. You are speaking of it as it is inalienable fact, and why
because I
I am.
am.
You are inalienable. Okay.
Because it's a fact. Because I have not had COVID. Period. I'm 100% confident to say I've never had COVID because the people that I'm close to who have been around me, mass and otherwise, have never gotten COVID either.
But
So that
Jason,
would seem to make sense to me. If A
saying
plus
that
B
you
equals C.
never had symptoms, and we already knew that a lot of people could have been asymptomatic. Like,
So all of a sudden, the 5, 10 people that I'm around are all asymptomatic. Really?
well, just because you may have been asymptomatic doesn't mean they would have been asymptomatic.
What I'm telling you is, if no one around me's gotten COVID that I've been around in an unmasked situation, that stands to reason. I know I didn't get COVID, and the chances of all 10 of us or 5 to 10 of us are also asymptomatic, not very likely. I'm sure you would agree to that.
That's not very likely, but it's also not fucking possible. And
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to hit on.
Okay.
You're talking about it as if it's certain, and all I'm saying is that it's not.
Okay. Well, it's also, well, I guess maybe not. I was gonna say it's also possible for the Cubs to make the World Series this year, but I guess that's not possible anymore. So
I
my
mean, they
bad.
can get tickets to that motherfucker, but they ain't gonna be playing in it.
Okay, so it's possible mathematically. It's still possible for somebody in the American League Central to win the division. That's not the White Sox. That's still possible. It's
Yeah,
not, but
it
it's not. But it's not
is.
very likely.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a very small 0.5% chance for it to happen.
right. But we still have
But
to
but
move
the, but the but the evidence is there that it's not going to happen, and it hasn't happened.
right. Well, I'm so glad that you've decided to go evidence based on this one. So,
I already have.
yep.
I already have. So, but again, to anybody listening to this who's in the same situation where you have to decide whether your employer is more important than compromising your concerns of your risk of taking the vaccine, think about it as long as you can. Make the best. Like I said before about the vaccine, make the best decision you can for you, your household, and your situation. End of story.
I feel like you're trying to run out the clock like you're the fucking New York Knicks in the 90s.
There's no clock running out, bro. It's a fact.
There's
Because
a
the
clock
fact
running out for some of y'all. I tell you that much. Y'all
well,
satisfied to go one of them 67 and 76 fucking games.
I'm just saying the fact of the matter is between the people that listen and watch the show, it stands to reason that I'm not going to be the only one who's listening and watching and involved in this is in the same situation. So I'm
Yeah.
just giving them my piece of advice that's pretty much the decision. Is keep my job with my employer worth me compromising my issues, concerns with the vaccine? Some people the answer is going to be yes. Some people are still going to be on the fence and have to think about it like me. Some people it's going to be a hard no. I've talked to people who are in that same situation and they've already said, I'm not getting the vaccine. So if I don't get an exemption, I'm out.
I mean,
And that's their decision. That's their decision
right.
based off their household and their situation.
I just find it fascinating that, the flu vaccine, and there's been about 31 different flavors of that fucking thing. And we have people who say, oh, I don't need it. And then I feel like we just kind of assumed that there was always going to be one version of the fucking COVID vac. I'm like, I mean, if Iron Man came back with at least the Mark 8 armor, you can bet your ass there are going to be new iterations of the COVID vaccines. So I find for people to either say, um, no, I'm never going to do it, science changes, formulas change, variants change. So I find a lot of that. Well, I'm never going to do thing X in regards to their health. I find a lot of that to be fascinating. In general, it's just an observation.
No,
So,
I get it. It is interesting. Somebody
yep.
told me that they were a hard no, like the day after the requirement came out at work. They're like, no, I'm good.
So, but yeah,
Again, that's
well,
based on their situation and whatnot. And the other thing I was going to say to this too, is now they're talking about the boosters shots are important. But so to that, where's the line drawn? So they're requiring the regular vax now. Are they going to start requiring the booster shot down the road as well? So, I mean, where's the line drawn? It was always, that question. And now it's like, okay, well, now the vaccine's required. Are the boosters going to be required too?
the fucking foundation. It's like just get the fucking cornerstone course out of the way first, guys. You are again fixating on shit that is so like far down the road.
Is it
So
though?
it is.
Well, it's still the point's still saying. I don't care if it's 2 months down the road, a year down the road. When is that line going to be drawn? Well, I guess if we're still dealing with this in a year, that's probably horrible. But well, yeah, man, this is definitely a sad day, I think, and I'm very curious to see how many. I don't know if we'll ever know the numbers, but I'm very curious to see all these 100 million or 80 million people who haven't been vaccinated. How many of them are going to be encouraged now to get it whenever their employer actually puts itself into place? But I guess we got to figure out if there's going to be a deadline for employers to start doing this. I mean, mine already decided to do this before Biden even made his announcement, so that deadline's in place for mine. We'll see.
Yep. Well, again, good idea starting the show off with this. I felt we had a very good discussion.
You sure?
We had a great discussion. That concludes our first segment on the Biden vaccine mandate. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about how fucked up Texas is when it comes to these new laws. Coming up on Cal Park Bros.